we continue to get like two or three types of terrible reviews. And we said, fuck it, let's just lean into it. You know what I mean?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Highlight of Business Podcast for Business People. And today I've got the guy with the coolest name I've ever had on the show. And I can't wait to hear this man's story. Owen Carrol, which if you've seen the tag is not how it's spelled. There was a whole lot of research going into it. And I'd love to hear the story of the name. I'd love to hear how he co-founded Truly Cereal. Let's just jump into it. Owen, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chandler. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Well, tell us a little bit about you, man. Where does that, first off, where's the name come from? Is that a family name?
My parents actually just made a mistake when they were filling out the birth certificate.
I love that.
No, it's Owen. Owen is it's actually a fairly common name in Ireland, and that's how it's spelt. It's non-phonetic. People say Ian, Eoin. It took my wife a couple of years to figure out how to say it right. But yeah, that's it. It's normal. I don't know. It's probably the least weird of Irish names. I think there's like a famous YouTube video where they go and show all these different names, like Aoife is another one that's very strange. But yeah, we have a lot of strange names on that side of the world.
I love it, man. Well, it's way better than my name. My name's Chandler, and it's like a candlestick maker or something in French, and I've never made one candle in my entire life, so I'm really not living up to my name's potential here. So
So
you're
your
in Canada now,
your
though.
next business idea. I am in
It's
Canada. I mean,
candles.
yeah, Chandler's Candles. I like the sound of it.
Hey, here we go.
Right?
Are you
It
ready
could
to
work.
invest? I'm collecting money. Yeah, here we go. I'm making
There we
notes now.
go. So yeah, I live in Toronto, Ontario now. I moved to Canada 13 years ago when I was 20,
Mm.
and I moved over. I worked in finance for 5 years, and during that period, I got into the fitness world. I got into the bodybuilding world specifically. I became an IFBB pro. I won the Arnold Amateur in 2014. So fitness is my entire life. And all I wanted to do was get sponsored by one of those big sports nutrition companies. And I was lucky enough to actually get employed and work. I left finance and worked for a large sports nutrition company for 7 years. And I left just a couple of years ago before I started working on Truly.
That's amazing. So was Truly your first business venture, or was there something else?
I had a beverage business before. So when keto was taken off, I tried to jump on that bandwagon and I made an iced tea product that had MCT oil emulsified into it.
Mm.
And it was very, very niche. I was chasing a trend and the product changed so often that my customers weren't really able to get a handle around what I was actually trying to sell. So first it was keto, and as keto started dying off, I tried to switch it to hydration. So there was no defined meaning behind why the brand existed. That was kind of
Mm.
like my entrepreneur phase. But
Mm.
having that brand allowed me to learn a whole bunch of different stuff. And it actually was the reason I met my co-founder that I started Truly with.
I love that. So why
Yeah.
do you say that was your entrepreneur phase? It sounded like you had some traction with it.
Yeah,
Like
there
it
was
wasn't
some
just an
traction.
idea.
It was more of a side hustle. I
Mm.
was working in sports nutrition full time at that time, so this was a nights and weekends type thing, and I didn't really have the headspace to jump into it all in. Like I didn't believe in it enough to jump in with both feet. So
Mm.
I didn't really feel that um, I didn't give it everything, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
I just think it
Yeah.
was. I love the idea of being an entrepreneur, but I wasn't really ready to take the risk associated with it yet.
Well, as a guy that has an IFBB Pro card, I mean that's pretty shocking to hear. I feel like guys like you don't do anything half-assed. You know, like you guys are all in on stuff. So was it a weird feeling internally while you were working on that, or
I
like walk
just
me through
didn't
some of
know.
that?
I don't know. It was a weird one where it was. I was trying to. I think I was waiting for this moment where it was just going to catch on, where traction was just
Mm.
going to suddenly develop. And I always had in the back of my mind where I was like, man, like this is a product that is purely defined for people that are on a ketogenic diet. This diet
Mm.
starts to wither away, I'm in trouble. So,
Mm.
I kind of I think about it as like, I never did an MBA, but I kind of see it as my MBA. I learned a lot doing it. I wanted to start my own business. I just yeah, I just don't think it was right. I don't want to talk down about myself too much when I was doing it. It's
No, yeah.
just with hindsight, when you're looking back, you're like, man, that was, I wasn't all there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's the right guy and the wrong opportunity. I feel like it's like in the states here, the NFL. It's like you see a quarterback. Baker Mayfield is a great example of this, where he was, not great with the Cleveland Browns, and then he goes down to Tampa and he just is crushing. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So he's in a new opportunity. All of a sudden, it's way better. My first business was a barbecue restaurant. It's not too different, where I really liked it, but I wasn't all in passionate about it, and sort of did that for 6 years, and then really fell in with love with marketing. And that's how I ended up with High Beam. And so I can understand how you did that. So talk to me about the transition from that tea product, keto based product, to truly cereal.
So the big switch for me was the keto tea product that I was selling was called Fat Tea, PHAT. And I think the big switch was I was chasing a trend. So I saw
Mm,
something happening in the market and I was like, I want a piece of that. So I jumped in the bandwagon and tried to create something that I felt was trending in the market at that time. I was almost trying to like catch a ghost in a sense. If a
mm-hmm,
trend is already taken off and you're trying to jump on, some
mm,
companies were able to do it because they already had a bunch of distribution already. They created a keto version of their own product and they kind of were able to jump on. And
mm,
I was too small, not the right time, and it was trend based. With Truly, it's completely different. I came from this world of fitness, and I
mm,
understand there's a real need. There was the whole cereal business is fascinating to me because it's been so stagnant for so long. No one's done anything to it. The cereals that
mm.
we grew up with, like we're probably the same age, we grew up with
Yeah.
the same cereal that was on the shelf when we grew up, the same cereals now, owned by the same conglomerates. And they're not incentivized to really change anything. They want to keep their price point the same. And even some of the premium options, like Vector, for example, it's kind of a protein cereal made by Kellogg's, but it's
Mm.
not a cereal. They actually label it as a meal replacement. So it has 13 grams of protein on the label, but it's only 5 grams in the box. The 8 other grams come from the milk you add to it. So there's
Oh my
like
gosh.
misleading
Tricky.
marketing,
Yeah.
stagnant industry, and then nobody wants to go into cereal because it's a declining category.
Mm.
So you can see that as a way where if I can go in and I can get it right, I think that there's nothing wrong with the format. I think the products within cereal are the issue. So
Yeah.
that was our whole play. We said if we can create a clean ingredient, super high protein cereal that has all of the nostalgia and the taste that comes with that format, I think we're onto something. And
Yeah.
we started off hot. You know, the business grew to bigger than my previous business within the first couple of months.
Man, what was
Yeah.
that feeling like when you sort of launch this new thing? You feel better about it, and all of a sudden to be validated via revenue in the door. I mean, it's got to be great, right?
Yeah, it was great. I think it was a different situation because before um, I was having my beverage product packed somewhere else. So we had a co-manufacturer making it. This time around, we
Mm,
had to build our own manufacturing facility. So when
mm,
we actually started it, my co-founder and I, we used the initial capital to get a production run done with a co-manufacturing facility in the US. So it took us about 10 months to go through this whole R&D process with their team. The product was eventually, we thought it was good. We were like, we'll go with this. So we ordered
mm.
5,000 bags and it arrived to our facility. And as we started to sell it, customers got back and said, this is bitter. This is gross. We don't like this. So we actually donated the entire production run, which was 60-65% of the initial capital we had. We
Yeah.
donated all the product to a food bank and we started again. So we
Mm,
knew at that point, we kind of sat down, we're like, this sucks. We just basically burned through like the vast majority of our initial capital. What's the next step? The next step wasn't trying to go and find another manufacturer because we realized this is really, really hard to make. Protein cereal is
mm.
hard to manufacture. You can either look at it as a way, okay, this is not the right opportunity to move away from it, or say to yourself, this is a hard thing to do. If we can get it right, it's going to be really valuable to do that. And
Yeah.
that's the option that we chose.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like that becomes your barrier to entry, right? It's a competitive mode at that point. If you've got the in-house ability to make it, no competitor can go to the same manufacturer and say, "Hey, when you're done making those guys run, go ahead and add ours to the back of the line." I love that. Are you guys bootstrapping this one, or did y'all raise money for this?
No, no outside capital at all.
That's great. That's awesome. Is that was that the same way with the tea company the first time, and they were both
Yeah,
bootstrapped?
the tea company is bootstrapped as well, but like, we're looking at it was orders of magnitude smaller than Truly,
Mm,
and there was no overhead. Like I'm sitting in our office now. We have our manufacturing facility, which is about 50 feet that way. All our manufacturing equipment, all our ingredient storage. So like the cost to set up the infrastructure we have here has been, it's a different stratosphere, right?
yeah.
um, Setting up a co-manufacturing situation, your biggest cost is just buying the inventory, right?
Mm, yeah.
So with this, you need to
Well,
you have your lease payments, you've got all the capital costs of buying the equipment, but the value that we have is that we're so agile.
mm,
We can turn around a new product in like 60 days,
hmm. Well, I
which
saw the s'mores product that came out, the s'mores cereal. So, like, talk us through
yeah,
that one. Like, how did that come out? Like, what was the? It felt like a quick turnaround from the time I saw it for the first time to maybe when
it
you
took
guys
a
started on
while.
it.
It took a while because there's a whole bunch of different stuff where like, do we need to freeze dry the marshmallows? Like, as in,
Mm.
I became like a marshmallow expert at the end of it because it interacts differently. Like, you can't heat them because they melt. Like, are they going to get caught in the packaging machine? There's a whole bunch of issues we tried to solve, but the thesis behind it was that even to today, Lucky Charms crushes it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They sell, I don't know, the number's nuts. I think it's something like 80 million boxes or something.
Oh my
It's a
gosh.
huge number that Lucky Charms sells. So obviously, adding marshmallows to a cereal product is, it's hitting, and it's very nostalgic. I
Yeah.
always felt that the marshmallow that was in Lucky Charms was like, it was hard and powdery, and it didn't really give me a taste experience that I wanted. So
Mm-hmm.
we went the route of, if we found a way to get a traditional marshmallow that you would find in a s'mores product and add graham cracker and chocolate flavored cereal, I think this will work. So when we ended up launching it, within 2 weeks of launch, it was 50% of our total online revenue, which was
Oh
nuts.
my
Yeah, it was
gosh.
crazy. So we had six flavors at the time, and that became half of our revenue. Yeah, it was
Just
nuts.
because of the nostalgia for marshmallow in the
I don't
cereal,
know,
or like,
man.
what do you think
Like
drove that? Did you guys have something hit advertising wise,
I
or?
don't know. We had a video do like, but it didn't even go that crazy. The video did like 50,000 views on Instagram, and we had some influencers post about it. But it's not like there was no virality with it. It was just
Mm,
our existing customers bought the product.
yeah.
We launched a kind of build your own box portal on our site where people could like mix and match their flavors, and people would choose that a lot. I don't really know what it was. We're
Mm,
still waiting on a lot of retail data to come through, but based on what we're seeing online, it was big. It was
yeah,
big.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. So now that you've like you've kind of it seems like transitioned a little bit out of the your own data points informed your experience to this point. You came from the bodybuilding background and really being in the world, but now you've had one product and multiple products hit. Like, how do you handle developing new products now that you're sort of like how do I say this? Like a band has a couple great songs. Like, how do you make the next album just as good as this current album? Like, S'mores Crush, but like, do you have to keep continuing to develop new products, or is it just to focus on like the core products we have, we make them better? Like, where's the balance there for you
I
guys?
think it's both. Like, we're definitely still working on our core line. There are
Mm.
certain textural issues that we're still trying to resolve. Protein cereal is new, man. It's
Oh
new.
yeah.
This has only been around like, 4 years, I think, since
Mm-hmm.
the first major protein cereal brand launched. Like, this is going to be, you're going to have a situation in 5 or 6 years where there's going to be like the Quest and the Grenade and the One. The same thing that happened to the protein bar category is going to happen to cereal. You're going to have a
Mm-hmm.
protein cereal section in your local grocery store. Like, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Our kind of goal is to be one of those brands that end up being there. I think we will be, to be honest. So when you're talking about product, like new products, how we're thinking about it is, we know how difficult it is to make a product that has inclusions. So adding marshmallows, we have a product coming out that's going to have like Belgian chocolate shards in it. We can do that because we have the ability to produce small batch product. So we can produce as low as like 1,000 bags in the production run. It's more expensive, but it provides novelty. It provides something interesting, like a different taste experience that they may not be able to get from other brands.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do stuff that other people won't. And then we're obviously trying to improve those core products, because not everything, you can't have an entire line of products that have like, all these different types of inclusions. It's just not realistic.
Yeah.
You don't make as much money on those products, but it brings new customers in. So it's almost like it's a marketing tool for us.
Yeah. It's like a
We get
loss
people.
leader just to get them in the door and
Yeah. Like
get them
the
acquainted to the
s'mores
brand.
product got us a lot of new customers, and a lot of those customers now are buying our core items, like our chocolate, our
Wow.
cinnamon, our peanut butter, our fruity product.
Hell yeah, dude. We can't talk about the actual food. I'm gonna get hungry. Like that's gonna be
Right.
a problem. It's like afternoon snack time. So,
Sure.
so you guys are, how old is Truly now?
We sold our first box in September of 2022.
22. Okay,
So we
cool. Are
were
you guys?
launched
Oh, go ahead.
September 2022. The year later, so we're in retail like just over a year now.
Okay. Well, that was gonna be my next question. Is like you started out in 22. Were you guys going direct to consumer via e-com, or were y'all trying to get wholesale distribution first? Like,
No, we actively
okay,
avoided distribution.
okay.
So we
Why?
were
That's interesting.
online. It was, yeah. So we did the first 6 months was straight off our website. After 6 months, we launched on Amazon, kind of figured out that business. And then once we felt
Mm,
that the product was getting the reviews that we thought it should get, and that the consumer feedback was positive, we felt comfortable to go into stores.
that's awesome. So that's pretty good. So the how do you is it because you guys had such a tight manufacturing schedule, like being able to do things in house, that you're able to look at feedback and adjust things, or how
Yeah.
did that work out?
Like
Yeah.
honestly, our Amazon reviews were massive in terms of like helping us figure out what issues people had.
Mm,
We had we have like a third party service that does all our reviews in our Shopify store. That was massive. We do a ton of consumer testing. So like we've got three formats. We've got like our full size box, we've got a single serving box, or sorry, single serving cereal cup, and then we
hmm
have a sample cup. So we've given out over 100,000 of those samples. So the amount of feedback that we've gotten through in-person demos and in-person events has been huge, right?
mm,
We do a lot of consumer testing. We have our own ways of helping people like tell us the truth. A lot of people
mm,
are kind of like, yeah, this is delicious, but like we want to really figure out what people think about things.
mm,
A lot of time it's people that actually didn't enjoy the product initially, and we will
mm,
reach out to them, talk to them, like as a human, be like, hey, I know you didn't like this. We're going to give you a full refund, but we'd like to send you product for free in the future as we improve things. And we've changed a lot of people's minds. And those people
wow.
that were initially not fans of what we were making, if we can switch them, it's huge for us because it means we've legitimately made an improvement.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's gonna be a good feeling too.
Yeah, it just means the product is getting better. Like any way, feedback is far faster online than it is via retail stores. We don't know if
Mm,
someone buys a product at a retail store in Toronto and they don't like it. I don't really know.
mm,
But if someone buys it from our site, they leave a negative review or they email us, we'll learn something. You know?
mm. Yeah. There's some sort of trend developing where it's like short feedback cycles for a company, this old is helping you stay nimble versus like the entrenched legacy serial players, right? Where you guys are actually able to take customer feedback. How often are you, like, how big is your team now? Like it's you and your co-founders, but then like how
Yeah,
many
there's
other people
seven
do
of
you guys
us.
have? Seven. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys all trying to go out and talk to customers pretty frequently? Is that part of
No,
your
it's typically
culture
me.
or?
It's
Okay.
it's I'm anything that's like external is me. Sales and marketing is me primarily.
Okay.
We have an events and marketing person we have on board, and she's been great. She'll collect some feedback from us. But in terms of these kind of short feedback cycles, we're in a phase where like if we were making a regular cereal, it wouldn't be the same. Protein cereal is so new, is they
Mm,
have there's all these predefined issues that exist with protein cereal because it's so new. There's texture issues, so the way the product is coated, Does it taste
Mm.
artificial or fake or weird? There's all these different problems that protein cereal has, and every brand has them. So
Mm.
we're trying to find which are the ones that are the most pressing to solve in our product, and how do we fix them. Like, I'll give you an example. The facility we're in now is where we've been since January of this year. Before then, we're in this tiny facility on the east side of the city, and it was the only place we could get. It was actually beside there was a woman that would sell psychedelic mushroom chocolates. There was some guy that would be playing drums until like 3 o'clock in the morning. He used to sell sounds to Pixar. There was like an auto
Oh
body
man.
shop. It was a weird, eclectic environment. Small, 1,500 square foot place, and that's where we did all R&D. And you know, being in that spot, our manufacturing process is very, very limited. But we knew that there was no way to solve a particular texture problem that we had with the product being there. So we had to basically shut that whole place down, get rid of all the equipment, and basically build an entire new manufacturing facility and process from scratch. So that
Dang.
happened in January. Yeah, it was nuts. The way we produced it up until December of last year, and the way we produced it in January was completely different. Like, I'm not joking. Other than the fact that we used the same way of putting the cereal into the bag and the bag in the box, everything that
Mm.
actually made the cereal itself was different.
Dang.
The whole
Is that
process was different.
so that launched January of 24?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
guys feeling the efficiency of that now, like 10
It
months
wasn't even
later,
efficiency. The
or
product is just better.
okay,
The
got it.
product is
That makes
just better.
sense.
The product is just better. We use a different process to make it now. But it was a huge
Got it.
shift, right?
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So is that shift a like what stems from that? Is it this constant improvement thing that you guys are doing? Like is that come from you guys at the top with the founders, or is that just a company culture thing you guys are trying to build? Like
It's just us.
a
I
lot
just
of
think that
companies you
there's going to
meet,
be
they
a
don't want to
race.
change.
I don't know. It depends on like how big they are. You know what I mean? Like, I can
Mm.
understand why Kellogg's don't want to change.
Yeah,
Of
right.
course, they don't change. They'll change via. They won't change the business themselves because they got too much to lose.
Mm.
You know that story about New Coke. Coke tried to
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
change. They made New Coke. It's all like, it's like a case study now. Change is very dangerous when you're big. When you're small, it's essential. You have to
Mm.
figure things out. There's certain changes that we've made that haven't gone the direction we expected, and we have to kind of
Mm.
reverse course. But there is a race, I believe, where there's going to be a couple of companies that are going to get protein cereal right, and the upside is insane.
Yeah.
So we want to be one of those companies. I think we got to be as agile as possible, because there's some large manufacturers that are doing this right now, but I just don't think they have the absolute perfect methodology. Like the bars that Quest were making in 2011, and then the bars that they were making when they sold to Atkins or the Simply Good Food Company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure who the acquirer was, but when they sold, their bars were way better. So they made huge amount of progress with that product in those first couple of years before they really scaled.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're doing the sales and marketing side of things. That's kind of your big bag, you said right there. So is I'd love to know your thoughts on like early stage marketing, what works best. Like, how do you get traction when funds are limited? Budget's always a problem with people. Like, how did you guys get traction in the early days? And then how has that changed now that you guys have, you said website, Amazon, wholesale. So you have multiple channels you're trying to fund via your marketing budget. So like, what are you guys doing now
At the
versus
beginning,
then?
we did have a hack that I can give you, which
Oh
was
yeah, I love it.
interesting. So, one of my best friends is a fitness influencer. I met him when I was bodybuilding back in the day. He has a very successful online coaching business, but he is someone known on social media. So how we kind of figured it was that, is there value to having, let's say you're a fitness influencer, would you take a billboard on a highway for like, $100? You would, for sure. Would
Yeah.
you take a billboard in the grocery store for, $1,000, like a 8-foot display with your face on it? And they would. So how we kind of thought about it was, what if we just put an influencer on the front of our box like Wheaties did?
Yeah.
And they would have the digital audience that we want, and then we would give them credibility and the access to people physically in a grocery store. Because it's
Mhm.
pretty fucking cool. If someone walks into a grocery store and they see you on a box of cereal, it's kind of sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hell yeah. We
And
all
it's just
played
a
sports growing up. We
credibility
wanted to
thing.
be on the Wheaties box,
I
you
know
know?
that was the thing. So, my friend Jason and I gave him a call. I was like, "Hey, are you up for this?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And that was a massive change. So I owe him a big, big, big debt. He was my best man at my wedding a couple of months ago, but I owed that guy one. And we put him on the front of the box. It was a chocolate peanut butter flavor we launched, and that had a very significant effect on the business.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
you
cool.
basically put
That's
him on the
awesome.
box. You put a QR code that people could scan and go directed to his Instagram. Um, and then yeah, we put him into stores. It was mainly online, but I think it was in like 150 or 200 stores at the time.
Okay. So
Um,
you guys had some wholesale distribution back
we had
then.
some wholesale distribution. We did that, yeah. So
Yeah. Gotcha. That's crazy, man. That's cool. What was it about? You think it's his audience being big enough that drove that, or like what was the trigger there for that?
I think it was a way for him to authentically talk about the product because he was
Mm,
so attached to it.
yeah.
For about 6 months after, people thought he owned the brand. So he was,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
it was like a big. So he was talking about it in a very authentic way. It didn't feel it didn't feel transactional. It felt like he was very, very much invested in like what the product was, which was a
Yeah.
very big selling point that converted a large section of his customers. He's also
Yeah.
an online coach, so and a significant one at that. So, out of the hundreds and hundreds of clients that he had, a lot of those people trust him as someone that would advise them on what nutritional decisions they should make, and they ate the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah. We're seeing that more and more now with the rise of like social media influencers, whether they be on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. They're building these large audiences, and then all of a sudden they're attaching themselves to these brands. And I don't think that trend's going anywhere anytime soon. It's sort of like my buddy's a Kiss fan, and so Kiss, the
Mm,
rock group, they put their logo on everything. It's probably way too much, but it's like what's a toned down version of that is the who is it, the Mr. Beast, the big famous YouTuber. He's got his Feastable bars. He sells a couple $100 million worth of those. It's like you can't buy that ad space on those YouTube videos he puts out.
no,
So
no.
I love that,
But it's also
and I
because
love what
it's
you guys
him.
are doing on social too, huh?
It's also because it's him.
Yeah,
Mr.
hundred
Beast
percent.
is the guy. Like, let's say somebody started a brand that was called Feastables and Mr. Beast endorsed it. I just don't think it's going to have the same power as
Mm,
Mr. Beast owning the brand itself because they're bought into him. His audience wants him, right?
yeah,
And it's the same thing with like Prime wouldn't have done as well unless it was KSI and Logan Paul. But I think there's a big, I think authenticity is almost this like overused word. But
mm,
I think people on social media, everyone's so digitally native now that people
mm,
are allergic to BS. They just know when something is just fake or if someone got a check, it just feels weird. You know what I mean?
mm.
Like
Yeah.
people are now like before when you were growing up watching TV or watching a movie or something, ads would come on.
Mm.
You'd leave the room and come back. Now it's people are like they'll just fast forward through the podcast ads. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but when people are behind it, like what I thought was interesting was there's a company called the Iron Neck, and Joe Rogan mentioned it just offhand because he used it
Mm,
in order to strengthen his neck
hmm.
for jiu-jitsu. The sales for that were crazy.
Yeah.
Even AI videos that people made about Joe Rogan talking about things, if it's within his podcast, it is crazy. Far more effective than if you just buy an ad, right?
Mm, yeah. Well, it's like we talk about this a lot. It's like, Nike with the Jordan shoes, the shoes were the tool that Michael Jordan used to be great at basketball. He didn't really need those shoes to be great at basketball, but we
Sure.
saw that as like, we want to be like Mike, right? And so nothing's really changed in the world of humans in the last 30 years. Like we're still people. We just happen to be doing things online versus the television, which is how it used to be, right? So the medium may move, but like how we act as people doesn't really change. You know what I mean? So how do you guys do that now with your marketing? Like how are you trying to make sure that I'm with you. I think the word's overused, but that authenticity, that realness shines through when you're obviously trying to sell cereal down the road.
A lot of our influencers are customers. That's kind of how we started. Like we don't have a program where we're reaching out to influencers and trying to convince people to market our product. I just don't know how effective that is. I could be wrong,
Mm,
but we would much rather work with 150 micro influencers that were
mhm.
customers of our brand. So if you're an
Yeah.
influencer, like we'll go through our customer list sometimes, and our Instagram DMs are huge for this. Just finding someone, like even someone that has 10 to 15,000 followers that is a customer, there's a
Hmm.
huge amount of value there.
Yeah.
We want to work with that person because they've bought the product, they like the product, they're actually, and they'll talk about it in a different way. It's just, um, you know, if someone hasn't actually experienced the product and liked it, it's very hard to speak about it in a way that's real. People are
Mm,
very, very intuitive now because everybody is online and watching videos and watching social media so much that they can tell. People have this temperature check for whether someone is actually into what they're talking about
mm.
or they're just getting paid to do it, you know?
Yeah. No, totally. The favorite video I have from you guys recently was that one where somebody reviewed the product and said it tasted like burnt Parmesan cheese and
Yeah,
and breadcrumbs or something,
yeah,
and then you guys did the blind taste test back and forth, and I laughed really hard at that, so
yeah.
that was pretty good.
That
So if
was
I
another one. Yeah, it was a review video. It was basically a situation where we got hammered. This is before one of the reasons we actually changed and built the entire new manufacturing facility is because we continued to get like two or three types of terrible reviews, and
mm,
we said, "Fuck it, let's just lean into it." You know what I mean? Let's own
mhm.
it. Let's lean into it, and let's get people in, and they'll like react to these reviews. That did well for us, and we ran those as ads and boosted posts, and it was it was good. I think people understood where we were coming
Hell yeah.
from. You know?
Well, one of the most famous ad campaigns in the last 20 years was Domino's admitting that their pizza sucked and saying sorry and putting billboards all over the place that says, "Our pizza used to suck. We're sorry. And please come in and try the new revamped product. Like, let us know how it is." And now they're the biggest pizza company in the world. And there's
Interesting.
something to that. Go ahead.
I didn't know this. This is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So you go Google this. It's a fascinating case study because they leaned into the negative. Because I mean, we all do this, right? You look for a restaurant to go to. You're looking for a book to buy. You immediately want to see, like, all right, I understand some people like it. I understand. I can pretty quickly within two or three reviews get why you like this product. But let me know why you don't like the product. Because if I relate to that, then I don't want to come in. So if I'm looking at a restaurant and I see, oh, the food is really bad or really overpriced or the
Right.
service is bad, and that is like a theme throughout the reviews, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'm going to avoid that like the plague. And Domino's had this institutional problem where like people were openly talking. It was like a pop culture thing where people were saying the Domino's pizza tastes like cardboard. And so they just said, all right, like, I mean, it's brilliant what you did. You leaned into it and you said, all right, if you think it tastes like that, like, we're going to revamp everything. And instead, you guys were like, all right, you went the more of the gesture route where it was like, there's going to be internet trolls that come in and be like overly dramatic, because that review specifically that we talked about here was so dramatic. Like that guy's never had burnt Parmesan and breadcrumbs in his life. Like, what is like, how does he even know what that tastes like? You know what
Dude
I
has a
mean?
great. Well,
So,
I know that he does have. He has a great imagination, but
yeah.
as ridiculous and as troll sounding as these comments were, those comments and people leaving reviews that are not perfect are
Mm,
helpful. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you start to see patterns, start to see trends. You become kind of like emotionally numb to these at the beginning when you start your business. You're like, oh my God, people don't like this. And it's such like every negative review is like devastating. But
Mm,
after a while, especially when your revenue gets to a point where you're like, okay, like we have something here. We're just trying to
mm-hmm,
find a way to iterate and make this thing better. Those negative reviews are huge. And
mm-hmm,
ignoring them is a huge mistake. There is
mm,
golden nuggets within what people are saying because we've been able to resolve a lot of those issues. And
mm,
it has made huge, like, as in we can see it in the revenue in terms of
yeah.
repeat customers. Customer retention has gone up significantly over the last 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, just
How do
repeat buys, frequency of purchasing, all those metrics are increasing.
Well, I mean, that's great. But how do you know, like, when negative feedback is worth taking? Is it a volume of it and the consistency of the same type of feedback, or like,
It's
you know,
people complaining about the same thing.
okay,
Yeah,
gotcha, in
if a
just
lot of
different
people are
ways.
saying, yeah, just different ways of saying the
Yeah,
same thing. You know, we had a
gotcha.
texture issue that we had to solve, and we knew that it was because of a particular way that we were making the product, which was terrible to figure out at the time because you were like, whoa,
Mm,
all the equipment that we've purchased over the
mm-hmm,
last year is redundant. Like we know what
mm,
we need to do, but it's going to require us to purchase everything brand new again, which sucked,
mm.
but it had to
Yeah.
be done. It had to be done because otherwise it just would have we kind of been we would have been stuck in mediocrity for a while, and
Mm.
that was when we took that big leap and we went like all in, all in.
Wow.
Yeah,
Was that hard to do? Was that scary? Like like walk me through some of the emotions around
you
that. I
got
feel
yeah
like
no,
people out there, they bet a lot on their businesses. Like, how do you
yeah.
actually take that step?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs do it. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
almost a bit kind of taboo to be talking about it. My situation isn't more painful or difficult than anybody else's, but yeah, I took a big risk, dude. You've probably taken
Yeah.
big risks in your life as well. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I feel very responsible for their futures. I want to give them a
Mm,
great life, but yeah, like it's risk is part of it though. If it
mm-hmm.
wasn't really risky, a lot more people would be in the game, right?
Yeah.
It's just I'm passionate about this. I think we make a great product. I think our product's going to improve. I think the team we have right now is phenomenal, and I think this
Mm,
brand has a real future. So, as risky as it is on paper, it doesn't feel as emotionally risky anymore. It was scary for
mm,
periods, but I think everybody kind of goes through that.
mm.
I think it's rare
Yeah.
to find somebody that started something from scratch that didn't take a really big risk that seemed reckless at the time.
Mm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. Well, Owen, man, I appreciate you joining me today. What can we do for you, man? What's your big ask here on the show? You've given us so much of your time. Where can we point people, or what can we do for you?
If you guys want a convenient, high protein breakfast cereal to have in your cabinet, you can go to trulycereal.com. We're at Truly Cereal on Instagram. And, send us a DM, get in touch. If you have any questions, concerns, feedback, you know, anything for us, get in touch.
I love it. We'll link all that up in the show notes. We appreciate you joining us today, man. We appreciate everybody out there listening. We'll see you next time.